What up, cucks? It's Tuesday, which means there's no wrestling to watch on TV. You know what I'm saying? Maybe I'll watch some NWA Power up in this piece. But until then, I figured I'd make a video, about a very, very broad, but very, very interesting topic, especially given the current climate of wrestling. The video is entitled, WWE is better than AEW, motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? And you may have clicked this video thinking it was just going to be a random rant of 10 minutes or so. Well, you probably saw the time, but you know what I'm saying. The reality is, cucks, that the video will be a bit more 25 reasons why, motherfuckers. I don't know why I didn't write it on the title. Or I guess I still could because I haven't written the title yet, but I'm not going to write on the title just because it's just more of a general idea and I'm going to just kind of keep talking about it. So even though it's going to be structured like a 25 reasons video, there are other elements to it, cucks. So recognize that, dogs. Anyways, let's get to it. All right, let's see if we got any new subscribers. I think I mentioned to everyone, I mentioned everyone else that, what's it called? That became a subscriber. I already talked about them, I think. Yeah, the last one I see here is Necro Consulting. There's 2 more subscribers, but they seem to be hidden subscribers. So if you want a shout out, then what you need to do is you need to hit that subscribe today button, motherfuckers, or write that you're a subscriber and I'll give you a shout out. Now, let's get to the video, motherfuckers. All right. Number 1, WWE has better stars than AEW. You understand what I'm saying? They just have better stars. It's as simple as that, right? That's the main reason why they're better, right? WWE, because they pay more and because there's more prestige and because people grow up and think to themselves, man, one day I want to be WWE champion and headline WrestleMania. WWE attracts more stars. It's the same reason why Vince McMahon and the XFL are not going to be as big as the NFL probably ever, right? Certainly not in the next 100 years, if they even last that long. You know what I'm saying? It's just not going to happen, right? Because if you're a little kid right now, right, or if you're like a teenager right now, and you've been playing football since you're 6, you're like, man, I want to be in the Super Bowl one day and win the Super Bowl, You're not thinking to yourself, man, I want to win the XFL Bowl or whatever the fuck it's going to be called, right? So for that reason, WWE alone is bounds and limits beyond what AEW could ever be because they have better stars, motherfuckers. That's reason 1. Reason 2, WWE does not hire AEW jobbers. It's the other way around, cucks. WWE hires whoever the hell they want to hire, and sometimes they even hire people so places like AEW just don't get their hands on them, right? AEW is the one who's going to be after every WWE star. You know what I mean? Just think about that. When we have mediocre tag teams like Dash and Dawson, right? They're like, oh, their contracts are coming up. Vince better pay them billions of dollars or else they might go to AEW. Oh, Vince is scared of AEW. I don't know why Vince is even doing this. Just let them go to AEW. Like, who gives a shit? Like, are Dash and Dawson really going to draw any money? They're not. You know what I mean? So, I mean, of course, there's a few stars like Randy Orton that could be like difference makers. Like he'll boost ratings up a little bit, but Randy Orton's too smart to go to that jobber company. You know what I'm saying, motherfuckers? Reason 3, motherfuckers. AEW has the elite and then has to pretend that they're a bigger deal than they are by consistently booking them strong, putting the tag straps on Kenny Omega and what's-his-face, Adam Page, and also having these stupid-ass vignettes of them putting their arms around each other and like, is the elite still elite? The elite is on the level of like Imperium. You know what I mean? Like in terms of like prestige, they're on the same level as Imperium. Like they haven't really done anything. You know what I mean? What the hell has Cody Rhodes accomplished since leaving WWE? Nothing. He was like ROH champ, I think, for a little bit, but who the fuck cares about that? That's an irrelevant belt. Who's the ROH champ now? PCO? A guy who's like 50-something? I mean, he's cool, but let's be real. He hasn't accomplished anything. Like, there's nothing that Cody Rhodes has done to establish him as elite after leaving WWE. The only thing that he's done is market himself as being elite. Kenny Omega at least, like, became, a IWGP champ for like 3 weeks before they put the belt back on Okada. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to see that shit, right? So they keep pushing the elite as if they're this huge deal, right? Whereas a team like, let's say, Undisputed Era has been booked much, much stronger than the elite. Like they've won every title. They're dominant. Adam Cole is considered this next big thing. He's like a much younger guy. You know what I mean? Like, and more importantly, obviously, he's in the WWE. So that's already gives him like a boost in prestige. Like if I had to compare like fucking, I don't know, Cody Rhodes, he's like on the levels of like Alexander Wolf, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, reason 4, motherfuckers. WWE has mid-card titles. Now, we could talk all day about how WWE doesn't use its mid-card division and therefore its mid-card belts correctly. I agree with that, you know? I was telling one of my friends, instead of having Drew McIntyre out of nowhere just be a jobber and like lose to Ricochet after coming back to the main roster, just being like everyone here is complacent, and then him becoming complacent himself. Instead of doing that, it would have been much better if like after he splits from Dolph Ziggler, he just becomes like the US champ or the IC champ or so, whatever the fuck they had on Raw at the time, right? And he just becomes that guy, and he becomes IC champ all this time, like over a year, let's say, right? And then he wins the Royal Rumble, and you're like, oh shit, this guy's been the IC champ for over a year. Like he wins his matches clean, let's say, right? And then you use that to catapult him like they did Ultimate Warrior back in the day when he was IC champ. You know what I mean? That's kind of the idea, right? That's the idea of mid-card titles. So WWE doesn't use them well. However, they at least have them. You know what I mean? They have the option of using them well if they so choose, right? Next, reason 5. Well, whereas, of course, AEW doesn't have mid-card titles yet, motherfucks. Reason 5. WWE is full of wrestlers. AEW is full... What am I saying? I done got myself confused. Who's the cuck? I'm the cuck this time, folks. Number 5, reason 5. WWE, not AEW, but World Wrestling Entertainment, motherfuckers, is full of wrestlers, right? Full of wrestlers that they treat like jobbers, right? I'm talking about Sami Zayn, Nakamura, Cesaro, right? That if these people went to AEW, they would be huge stars, right? They would be like superstars. Can you imagine if Cesaro went to AEW? Like everyone would want him to be AEW champion, and maybe justifiably so because Cesaro is very underrated. But the facts are what they are. The facts speak for themselves, right? These guys, Vince McMahon and probably Triple H, don't see these guys as anything more than what they are, right? Cesaro, I mean, I love Cesaro. You know, Cesaro is like one of the most, like I just said, one of the most underrated wrestlers alive. You know what I mean? But let's be honest with ourselves, right? Like, eventually that would get boring, right? Like, Keith Lee can do a lot of the same things Cesaro can do, except Keith Lee looks better. Like, he has a unique look, right? And is more charismatic. You know, it's as simple as that, right? Like, Cesaro, he's great at what he does. He might even be better than Keith Lee at what he does, right? But the distance between Keith Lee and Cesaro from an in-ring perspective is not great enough to compensate for the fact that Cesaro is inferior in terms of charisma and other elements, right? So there you have it, cucks. But people like Cesaro, Nakamura, if Nakamura's contract comes up, people are going to be like, oh, I hope he goes to AEW so he can really use him well. He'll go to AEW, he'll do the same 3 moves he does, right? And for some reason, people will think he's better now all of a sudden, right? Same shit that happened with Goldust and Cody Rhodes, and Ty Dillinger, all these other jobbers, right? Let's call it like it is, right? It's not the other way around. Once again, it's not the other way around, right? It's not like there's anyone in AEW that WWE could want or need, right? They're either all the good ones are WWE has-beens or WWE rejects, right? People that were like in like NXT for a while, like Luchasaurus. He was in NXT for a while, and they're like, all right, like you complain too much, get out of here, kid, right? It's either that, or maybe there might be like one here or there that WWE might one day be interested in, like a Darby Allin. That's like unfortunately, I think that's the guy that's most likely to go to WWE, like the most likely to get signed, right? Is someone like Darby Allin, someone that stands out, and you can put him 205 live, and you know people will like him. You know what I mean? Everyone else, like Joey Janela, WWE doesn't need Joey Janela. WWE doesn't need Adam Page. Now, maybe they want Adam Page, right? Maybe they want like one other guy, but they have people like Matt Riddle who are like way better than Adam Page. You know what I mean? Even Pete Dunne, like they can take Adam Page and make him a Pete Dunne. Yeah, but do you really need more than one of those motherfuckers? You don't, you know. And then what would Adam Page's career look like? He would go to the main roster, or he would have a Cedric Alexander career. That's what would happen because he's on the same level. He's another ROH jobber. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the idea, right? Now let's compare this real fast to TNA, motherfuckers. Remember when TNA was big back in the day, right? There were a lot of people, right, that TNA had that WWE wanted, you know, or wanted back. Like there were people that legitimately jumped ship, you know. Christian Cage, right? Kurt Angle, of course. Booker T to a lesser extent, because I think WWE was pretty much done with Booker T. But still like a big deal, right? And then all these other legendary type wrestlers. And then on the other hand, there were all these people like Frankie Kazarian when he was young, right? That he left TNA for WWE for a while, then went back, right? And he didn't get fired, he just left, right? People like Bobby Roode. I mean, I don't even have to explain myself, right? All these TNA people that are now in WWE. Bobby Roode, Eric Young, Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, all these people that made their name in TNA and became somebody in TNA, or James Storm even, right? They wanted to sign him, but he was like, fuck this shit, right? The point I'm trying to make is this. There's no one like that in AEW, right? Who would WWE want from AEW? Like, and when I say want, I mean not want so they can just put them on the shelf, right? I mean want to like use them and make them big stars, right? Like the way AJ Styles has become a big star in WWE. Who would have the potential? Kenny Omega, he would have the potential for a little bit, right? Like he would have that smart boost, and then eventually he would become a Nakamura, right? Like there's a lot of a recency bias in wrestling fans, right? Wrestling fans are very short-sighted human beings, right? Like the problem with wrestling fans is that their idea of like what's great is a very temporally based idea. It's like if it's great today, then it's great, right? That's kind of how wrestling fans operate. You know what I mean, motherfucks? Right? Like before Kenny Omega was a big deal, Nakamura was a huge deal. Remember that? People were like, oh man, the first Japanese guy that's going to become WWE champion. People thought it was this huge deal. In New Japan, they made a big deal out of him leaving, you know? They really presented it as if like this guy had finally made it to the top, right? That his signing by WWE could only lead to one place, and that's him becoming WWE champion, right? But that's not what happened, right? The same thing would happen to Kenny Omega. Nobody gave a fuck about Kenny Omega when they signed AJ Styles and Nakamura. People were like, holy shit, AJ Styles and Nakamura are going to WWE? Oh my God, like, finally, like, two of the best wrestlers in the world are going to WWE, right? And then, since they left, they're like, oh, we have to make a star now. Kenny Omega, right? We have no stars. Like, they had no stars. Who do they have? They had, like, Okada, and they had, like, you could argue Naito. That's it, man. Like, that Wrestle Kingdom, the one before they left, the co-main event, like the secondary main event, right, was Nakamura versus AJ Styles, both who were leaving for WWE the next day. I think Kenny Omega was like the first match on the card, or if he was even on there, you know what I mean? And then the main event was Tanahashi versus Okada. So they're like, oh shit, we can't like keep rolling with Tanahashi and Okada. This is getting stale, right? We need to find new stars, motherfuckers. So they made like Naito, and they made Kenny Omega, right? And that speaks for itself, you know what I mean? Whereas TNA had their own stars, like they had their like TNA originals, right? Like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, kind of, Daniels, like these people, right? And then they had a lot of WWE guys. There was a lot of interest from WWE, right? There was a point where even John Cena, when like as part of an angle where he was getting fired, he told Vince McMahon, he was like, yo, if you fire me, I'm going to take my talents to another show, brother, right? He threatened to leave for TNA, right? That's how good TNA was back then. AEW is nowhere near there, motherfuckers. It's vastly inferior to Prime TNA, and it's vastly inferior to WWE. As a matter of fact, I would argue that TNA around 2006, 2007, 2008, even 2009 was superior to WWE. They were putting on incredible shows, great matches, dope storylines, right? Like they had like, people that stood out, Abyss, Christopher Daniels, like I said, Jay Lethal, even Sanjay Dutt, you know, Team Canada. They had like a lot of cool things, LAX, you know, they did a good job, right? So AEW is not there yet. You know what I mean? It's not there yet. When WWE like stars would leave WWE or they get fired, right? They'd go to TNA, but very few of them would become champs or would become big deals, right? Like R-Truth, Ron Killings was like a TNA champ and he was awesome. He was a great wrestler, right? But they had bigger stars than him, like Road Dogg, Billy Gunn, Conan, right? A bunch of other guys, basically like. That had much greater name recognition, right? Even like Raven and Rhino. I mean, they had like a turn with the belt, but they were not like the champ, like the champ, right? So they had all these people like Conan, right? Who's one of the best on the mic. Road Dogg, who was still like popular, right? And they didn't make Road Dogg the world champion, right? Whereas if like a lower mid-carder from WWE jumps ship to AEW, he will become champion very soon. You know what I mean? That's exactly what's happening, right? I mean, I won't sit here and say that Dean Ambrose is a lower mid-carder, but he is a solid mid-carder is what he was, right? He had his run with the belt in one of the least memorable title runs of all time, and then he was relegated to a mid-card, and I think he was on his way to being like I wouldn't say an undercard wrestler, but he was going to start jobbing out to Nia Jax. You know what I'm saying? That was his future, so he understood and he left, you know? So that's what I'm saying, right? The discrepancy is too big. Reason number 6, motherfucks. Baron Corbin is a better heel than anyone in AEW. Oh, hater, but what about MJF? What about him? What about this cuck? He threw him in a pool like he was a nothing, you know? This guy is like more concerned with giving 10 lashes to Cody Rhodes. By the way, why the fuck hasn't that happened yet? You know, is that ever gonna fucking happen? Like, when is this pay-per-view? I don't even know when the pay-per-view is. They've done that should be another reason. Bonus reason, cucks. The marketing of WWE is substantially better than AEW. I didn't know that Bash of the Beach was coming until the week before. I forgot that it was going to be a 2-parter. I don't know when the next pay-per-view is. I don't know where it is. I don't know what the hell's happening for the next pay-per-view, except for the fact that it's going to be Jericho versus Ambrose. That's all, which would be a mid-card match at WWE, probably for the IC title. You understand what I'm saying? On a throwaway Raw or SmackDown. So let's keep that in mind. Baron Corbin is a better heel than anyone in AEW. Number 7. Lindsay Dorado would be a huge star in AEW, motherfuckers. They would treat him like gold. You know what I'm saying? He'd be out there beating people. Like, imagine if they got someone like Kalisto, who was like a former US champ. That guy would be like, he would be a number 1 contender immediately. They would treat him like a Rey Mysterio. So there you have it, motherfuckers. Reason number 8. WWE has more actually marketable wrestlers than AEW, because AEW is 0, and that's a big deal, right? It's one thing to have the better wrestlers and to have the better stars, right? But you need marketable wrestlers, right? These don't even have to be main eventers, but someone you can market. So, for example, take someone like Bayley, right? I think Bayley sucks, but you can market the shit out of Bayley and get little kids to buy her stuff, right? You can market even someone like R-Truth, you know? You can make him a goofy, like, friendly to the children character. You can market him, right? You can market someone like, even like Zack Ryder, man, Daniel Bryan. These are people you can market. Like, you can take them and be like, oh, this guy is like inherently interesting. He will sell a lot of shirts, right? And then of course you have like people like Kane, Big Show, people that are, you're gonna market them just because they're inherently cool, right? AEW doesn't have this, right? You can't market Butcher and Blade. Who the fuck would buy a Butcher and Blade shirt, right? The one thing that made people like Kenny Omega, and to a much lesser degree Cody Rhodes, and to an equal degree, I suppose, the Young Bucks interesting, was because they were part of the Bullet Club, which was not their conception. It was not like they're not the ones that got it over or made it popular, right? It was other people, all of whom are now in WWE. Finn Balor, fucking AJ Styles, obviously played a huge part. Carl Anderson played a huge part, right? And Gallows not really, but you understand what I'm saying, right? It's those 3 guys that made Bullet Club. That's like the only reason Carl Anderson got signed, was because he was part of the Bullet Club. Nobody give a fuck about Carl Anderson, you know what I mean? Or Lou Gallows for that matter, right? So that's what I'm saying, right? AEW needs to learn how to market their stars, right? This is very difficult because a lot of their stars are just not marketable. Like, you have Darby Allin, maybe that's it, man. Like, how else can you market? Like, how are you going to sell an MJF t-shirt? He's a heel that makes fun of the crowd, right? Everyone else sucks. You know, what the hell are you going to do? You're going to sell a t-shirt that says Brandon Cutler on it with a Dungeons & Dragons dice? Who the fuck is going to buy that, you know? Like, yeah, the Neckbeards might buy it in size 5XL, but are normal people watching on TV going to be attracted to a shirt like that on a wrestler like that? Absolutely not. Whereas in WWE, even back in the day in the Attitude Era, you know, people would buy shirts like for the Dudley Boys because they were just awesome, right? You would buy a shirt for Jeff Hardy because he's fucking Jeff Hardy, right? Lita, like all these people that were great back then, let alone the main eventers, which goes without saying, right? But even like Jeff Jarrett was selling shirts. China was selling shirts. You know what I mean? People were selling shirts left and right. That's part of the WWE machine as well, but it's also because they've made it happen, right? Like, I don't know what's happening in NWA, but last I checked, there was that guy, I think it's Josephus or whatever, and he plays like the great, what was his name, the question mark or something, right? Like, that's something you can market. That's hilarious, right? It's like this guy called the question mark or whatever, and his finishing move is like basically like a Samoan spike, but he does like a different thing with his hands, right? And it's awesome, you know. It's like that's something people cheer for, people like him. Like, you can market that guy, you can market attractive women, you can market cool ideas, right? You can't market Butcher and Blade, you can't market like Jimmy Havoc, you can't market Sonny Kiss. No one cares about these guys. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe Sonny Kiss, you'd probably have a better chance with him than you would with Cody Rhodes, but hey, that's neither here nor there, motherfuckers. All right. Reason number 9. WWE has more TV shows, and this is a big one, right? They have Monday nights Raw, Friday night Cuckdown, right? And or Friday night Smartdown. You know what I'm saying? They have NXT now, also on TV. On top of this, they have other affiliated shows like Miz and Mrs. and Total Divas and Total Bellas, and I don't watch that kind of stuff, but it gets the brand out there, right? It puts the brand forward, cucks. AEW only has Dynamite. Now that's, you know, they're a new company, so I'm not saying they should have more, but it's a reason why WWE is better, cucks. Then reason number 10, which goes hand in hand with reason number 9. WWE has the WWE Network, and this is a big deal, right? The WWE Network obviously keeps people tuned in. Their pay-per-view model is brilliant, right? Like, this was a brilliant idea, you know? Like, I watch nearly every WWE pay-per-view now, right? Back in the day, like when wrestling was good, I'd watch like every other one, maybe, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't gonna spend like $60, whatever the fuck it was, or $30 back in the day to watch like a bullshit one, right? But I always wanted to watch them, right? It was just a matter of like convincing my mom to like get the pay-per-view when I was a kid, right? Now, you know, now that I'm an adult, right, I value money a lot more, motherfuckers. So I'm not willing to drop like you know, I enjoy UFC, but I'm not willing to drop like $60 to watch like, you know, even Conor McGregor, right? I'm not willing to do that. I'll just watch the highlights the next day or something, you know, on YouTube. So knowing that that's the case, like, there's no doubt about it. Like, if there was no WWE Network, I would 100% order Royal Rumble. I would 100% order Survivor Series, and I would 100% order WrestleMania. Everything else is a 50-50. Even SummerSlam, I don't give a shit about. Those are my three pay-per-views. I would 100% order those. I've watched every SummerSlam since like 1999. You know what I mean? Like the first pay-per-view that I got the chance to order. So that would be what? Let's say each pay-per-view is $50, right? Let's just for math's sake, right? That's $150, right? For $10, now I get to watch a month. I get to watch all pay-per-views, right? But you got to remember, motherfuckers, there are people that aren't like me. There are people that watch only WrestleMania. There are people that watch no pay-per-views. You know what I mean? For a while, like when I was a kid and I first started liking wrestling, it was a really hard sell to tell my mom, "Hey, mom, can you pay $50 to watch WrestleMania?" And she'd be like, "What the fuck? No. Like, why don't you watch it tomorrow?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Oh, Raw is tomorrow, whatever." You understand what I'm saying, right? So WWE Network has really been a game changer and has been a really good... The hell, my phone is ringing. Fuck is calling me, motherfuckers. Where were we, motherfuckers? I had to answer that phone call real quick. I didn't like that I interrupted my video, but I had to answer it because it was a friend, and I was like, "Yo, what if this person's like dying or something?" You know what I'm saying? I can't just ignore them, right? So anyways, yeah, where were we? I was talking about WWE Network, right? Which is actually, I just finished talking about that, so that's pretty much all I had to say about WWE Network, you know? It's a good way to push forward the different shows and to generate revenue, you know? Ongoing subscription-based revenue. Think about that, cucks. I think they have what, like, it's gotta be over 2 million, but I remember like the last milestone they hit, I think, was like 2 million subscribers. Think about that. 2 million paid subscribers. That's $20 million a month that they get from the WWE Network. 20 million, you know? And the costs, I mean, you have to have a server, and you gotta pay a few salaries here and there, right? For like Kathy Kelly or whatever to like do her shit. And then you gotta do some original programming, which they'd probably do anyways, you know? And they would sell through like DVDs, making substantially less than they do now, you know? So there you have it, you know what I mean? It's a very good model. I like it a lot. You know, it probably also cuts back on their production costs for DVDs. They just make it digital, upload it, and they're good to go. Yeah. Reason number 11. WWE has things like the Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. Now, this is a two-part reason. Part one, these are two big events, right? I'm sure AEW is going to have their equivalent of WrestleMania, but who the fuck knows at this point, right? They're having a pay-per-view every like 3 months, you know, so like every pay-per-view is like one of the big 4 pay-per-views, which is fine if the pay-per-views feel amazing, right? And they can't. They can't feel amazing because AEW, every episode starts with like a 25-minute match. And if you have a 25-minute match on TV, what are you going to have in the pay-per-view? Another 25-minute match? This is like exactly the point. They don't understand the format, the medium of wrestling, right? The whole idea is this. You have bullshit matches that are like 7-8 minutes on Raw, and then the payoff is at the pay-per-view, right? Because this makes you want to get the pay-per-view. You're like, oh, I'm going to finally see the match. You know, I saw the storyline, now I'm going to get to see the match. But in AEW, you see the match, and then you're like, oh, it's going to be Pac versus like Kenny Omega once again. I've already seen it 3 times. Full match 3 times. So what's the point? You know, why would this be pay-per-view worthy if I could see it on Wednesday Night Dynamite, you know? So the fact that WWE has these 2 and more big pay-per-views is one element of reason number 11. The other element is this. The Royal Rumble leads up to WrestleMania, right? The Royal Rumble is the beginning of WrestleMania season. It is the beginning of the third act of the year for WWE, right? The conclusion, right? And it ends at WrestleMania, the biggest event, right? In April, and then after that, the cycle begins again, right? So you have the Royal Rumble match, right, or matches now that lead you to WrestleMania, right? There's a structure. And AEW might have this, but thus far they don't, and I honestly believe they haven't thought it out how it's going to be, like what their Royal Rumble equivalent is going to be. TNA eventually did like the Bound for Glory series or whatever, where you had the people just like, you know, they had like that it was like a league system. That was kind of nice. It was different at least, right? AEW is probably going to have some sort of tournament or something like that. I don't know. Who the fuck knows, right? I mean, they might as well just copy WWE and have like a battle royal. Who the fuck cares? Anyways, reason number 12. WWE has an identity. The identity of WWE is the biggest company in pro wrestling history, right? That is family friendly. It targets families, right? AEW does not have an identity. You can make an argument that the AEW identity is that they're the company that caters to the smarks and the neckbeards. That's a possibility, but that's not something that they're ever going to admit, motherfuckers. Reason number 13. Everyone, including the AEW commentary team, does not give a shit about AEW. No one cares. JR doesn't know the names of the wrestlers, doesn't know the names of the moves. JR doesn't even know the name of the company. At one point, he said AWE World Champion or whatever, right? I'm just like, dude, you don't even care enough to say the name right, you know? Now, I know JR has these little faux pas once in a while, but typically when he does, he also makes up for it with energetic, enthusiastic, and amazing commentary. And I have only seen one instance of that in the entirety of JR's tenure, if you will, at AEW. And that was when MJF low-blowed Cody Rhodes. And JR said something like, oh, what a bastard. But it felt passionate, you know? That's it. He hasn't done anything else since then or before that, motherfuckers. Reason 14. AEW cucks itself out like all the time. Specifically, it cuts itself out to Jericho, right? Now, I get it. Jericho is your cash cow. Jericho is the reason you exist, AEW. Because let's be real. If there was no Jericho, and that's getting stale too, but if there was no Jericho, AEW would be like atrocious, right? No one would care at all, you know? But this does not mean that you cuck yourself out to Jericho. Now you might be wondering, hater, how are they cucking themselves out, right? And I'll tell you this, motherfuckers. They're cucking themselves out in one way and one way only. And that is this. They allow Jericho to do whatever the fuck he wants. Jericho wants to sell his own champagne. It's not even AEW branded. It's just like the Jericho champagne. Buy it, cucks, right? Jericho just wants to hijack the show and have it on his cruise to promote his cruise. I don't think AEW gets a cut. And if they do, it's like a 10%, you know? Maybe Jericho just pays the wrestlers or something, right? Maybe AEW's cut is just like they don't have to produce the show. You know what I mean? The fuck knows, right? The point is Jericho's definitely getting the ticket sales, obviously, right? So they're allowing this to happen, you know? They're allowing this to happen because they understand the one thing that Vince McMahon understood and stopped doing, right? The thing that Dana White doesn't understand, the thing that AEW doesn't understand is that no person, right? No person, as Vince McMahon put it, no one man is bigger than the WWE, right? No, and this was used against him in storyline. I saw it randomly, right? Where Triple H was like, no one man is bigger, Vince, not even you. You know, so the board has decided to fire your ass, right? So that's the point, right? No one man can be bigger than the entity itself, right? When people like Conor McGregor get so over, right? Conor McGregor is a great fighter, don't get me wrong. But for a long time, I was like, oh, he's untested. You know, like he had his fight with Khabib, he lost. It is what it is, right? But he's proven himself, I think, in the last fight, and the fact that he won a round against Khabib, which no one has ever done. So he's proven himself to be like not like a fluke so much, right? But he's a guy with very high demands, you know? Like he's out there being like, yo, I want a percentage of the company. And it's like, on one side of the argument, it's like, all right, dude, this guy's contributed so much that maybe it's better to pay him a percentage and prevent him from going somewhere else. But at the same time, it's like, dude, Conor McGregor is not going to last forever, you know? There's going to be other Conor McGregors. What are you going to do, give them all percentages? No, motherfucks. That's not how it works. So, like, but despite that, they have allowed Conor to grow so big that he demands such a high pay, right? He also draws for them, but he demands such a high pay, and he brings so much other baggage with him, you know, all the drama and the legal problems that he's had, right? He brings so much, but also takes so much, right? Conor McGregor has grown beyond the UFC. You know what I mean? Conor McGregor is now a mainstream star. And if you have more than one of those, right, those people can leave, right? Like Ronda Rousey left. Now, Ronda Rousey, fortunately, was cucked out before she left. She lost 2 big matches, and she left, not disgraced, obviously, but she left, you know, she left on her back, right? She left a loser. Now, if Conor McGregor, let's just hypothetically say, Conor McGregor comes in and becomes the welterweight champion, right? Or becomes the lightweight champion, and he leaves for WWE. That is a big blow. He could demand a lot of money from WWE, and they would pay him because he would take all his fans, right? All his fans would go and be like, oh shit, he's in WWE now. I also want to see Conor cut promos, you know? Same exact thing. If Brock Lesnar were to go and fight for the world heavyweight title in UFC, and if he were to win, it's clear that he respects Vince more than he respects Dana White. If he were to win and go to WWE, right? That would kill the entire heavyweight division. If he's like, I retire. Oh, I beat Stipe Miocic, I retire. AEW doesn't understand this, right? Jericho is bigger than AEW by a lot, right? And instead of trying to like use Jericho, they're letting Jericho use them. You know, Jericho's using them as a platform to put over his cruise, to put over his champagne, which came out of nowhere, right? They're being used, man. They don't understand. Jericho doesn't give a fuck about AEW. He's using them, and he said so in a podcast. He was like, look, he's like, I'm not going back to WWE because if AEW becomes huge, that's another feather in my cap, basically, right? And also, it's a financially smart move because if, let's just say, hypothetically speaking, the 0.001% chance that AEW surpasses WWE one day, right? Jericho did that, and he will get handsomely rewarded, you know? That's just never going to happen. But, you know, Jericho's a young guy, relatively speaking. He's got another 40 years of life, let's say, or whatever, 35, 40 years of life. People are living longer and longer, right? So this guy, like, if in 30 years, this is a billion-dollar company, he'll have wriggled his way in to getting some sort of percentage, and he will be richer, and he will have contributed way more to wrestling than anyone else. That's the cost-benefit analysis there, right? It's not that, like, Jericho believes in Kenny Omega. He doesn't give a fuck about that. You know, he's going to, and as a matter of fact, Jericho's going to end up in WWE again, 100%, you know? Unless AEW somehow, like, just buys WWE, which is never going to happen. But you understand what I'm saying, right? So, there you have it, Cucks. There you have it, you know? This identity problem that plagues AEW is what has gotten them to this point. They have no identity. Their identity has become the company where Jericho works. And Jericho has taken advantage of this, and AEW has cucked out to Jericho. Which, maybe it's the right move. I mean, what else do they got? You know what I'm saying? Reason 15, Cucks. The AEW fans appreciate inferior jobber-type wrestlers, right? They appreciate the things that you are not supposed to appreciate. You're supposed to look at someone like Ty Dillinger and say, jobber, get him out of my screen, right? But no, they're like, oh, Ty Dillinger is the chairman. No, Edge is back now, motherfuckers. Edge is the chairman. So go fuck yourselves. Reason 16. AEW copies WWE blatantly, right? They copy them completely. Ric Flair became a manager for Triple H back in the day. Then what do? They bring in Tully Blanchard and Arn Anderson. They have zero creativity, right? Cody Rhodes is like, this is another reason. This is reason 17, actually. Cody Rhodes is a Triple H ripoff, right? But they kind of go hand in hand. I had other reasons for 16, which I will get to. But Cody Rhodes, and we skipped reason 17. Cody Rhodes is a Triple H ripoff, and that is a reason why WWE is better than AEW. Because they don't have to rip off anyone else in AEW. That's just stupid, right? So this just goes to show their lack of creativity. Other reasons, other examples of AEW copying WWE are things like Private Party. You know, I mean, you might as well just call them the Street Profits, but spell it differently. You know what I'm saying? Like profits, like, you know, like not money profits, but profits like, you know, like Muhammad, like that kind of profit, right? Just spell it differently. It's the same exact thing. It's these two guys who are like these two like cool black guys that you know, come out and entertain the crowd with their, like, you know, party boy lifestyle, right? What's it called? Street Profits have the cup, and what's the other one? God, their name escapes me right now. Private Party. And Private Party has, like, the party line, right? Like the little thing, the little stanchion, right? It's the same fucking thing, man. They're full of the same shit. You know what I'm saying? It's the same exact things over and over again, right? And it's gotten to the point now where AEW is copying itself. You know, they have the Nightmare Collective and the Dark Order. This is just ridiculous, right? Which are both, of course, derivatives of the Ministry of Darkness and kind of straight edge society when they would cut their people's hairs. It's the exact same thing, you know? So that's what I gotta say about that, cut boys. Next, reason 18, I guess now. People are clamoring for Matt Hardy to go to AEW. I mean, I like Matt Hardy, but are we really gonna pretend that Matt Hardy is this guy who will, like, save AEW, who will make them more relevant? He's not, motherfuckers. The whole broken thing is done. Like, it's old now. You know what I mean? Like, even if he brings it back, it'll have that little, like, now it's a little, like, nostalgic, right? It'll have a little bit of that, but then it'll quickly die down. No one will care, right? Furthermore, I thought that AEW was already awesome. Why are they already thinking about which WWE guy can join to make it better, right? How about, I thought AEW was full of these great wrestlers, right? Why do you want Matt Hardy? Why don't you make Michael Nakazawa the leader of the Dark Order, right? And push him, right? I thought he was good. You know what I'm saying? Get the fuck out of here, you know? It's complete bullshit. Reason number 19, motherfuckers. These are two of my favorite reasons, 19 and 20. Reason 19. Vince is a better wrestling mind than the Khans, right? Vince understands wrestling. Vince essentially invented wrestling, right? Like, as far as we know it, Vince created this idea, right? The Khans are just fans, right? Reason number 20. Vince is a better businessman than the Khans. That's right, motherfuckers. I said it. Now, I know some people are thinking, oh, but Hater, Shot or whatever the fuck his name is, the older Khan, that guy is richer than Vince. Yeah, he is richer than Vince, right? Because he has done very well for himself and good for him. But here's the difference. Vince McMahon is always hungry, motherfuckers. I don't know anything about this guy. This guy just made a bunch of like money from selling cars, I think it was. Like, that's his big enterprise. And then he's made safe investments like buying like the Jaguars, right? Like, it's gonna do well. It's a sports franchise, right? Vince McMahon, on the other hand, is starting the XFL. And Vince McMahon started WWE, right? Vince McMahon is a legitimate businessman. He is a legitimate entrepreneur. He's not like essentially an investor, right? He is an entrepreneur. He's a guy who's like, yo, man, I'm going to make something that competes. Can you imagine that shit, man? There's people out there starting little businesses that are afraid to compete with like fucking anything. You know what I mean? Like, there's people out there that like, you know, they want to buy some product on like AliExpress and drop ship it, right? And they're afraid of competing with someone who did the same exact thing. Vince McMahon, on the other hand, is not afraid of competing with the NFL, motherfucks. So that's why Vince is better than the Khans. And therefore, WWE is better than AEW. Now, reason 21. Shane McMahon would beat up Tony Khan, motherfuckers. The sons of the owners, of the actual owners, right, would... If they were to fight, Shane would win, motherfuckers. So that's why WWE is better. Reason 22. AEW can barely compete with NXT. And when I say barely compete, sometimes they lose, you know? So let alone, like, they would have no chance competing against Raw. Zero chance, right? Reason 23. WWE has a system in place where they test out stars in NXT, and they try to make their own stars while also poaching lower level talent like John Morrison away from other companies, right? The fact that John Morrison was thrown out of the Rumble the way he was leads me to believe that they just paid him so he wouldn't go anywhere else, right? It's just like, all right, just come here. We'll pay you like a bit more than these guys, right? You'll have a match here and there, but you're not really going to stand out, kid. It's not you. It never was. You know what I'm saying? Reason 24. WWE is a place where people like Edge can come back to, right? Imagine if Edge went to AEW. You can't imagine it. It's unimaginable, right? It's just foolish. Why would he ever go there? You know, he's like a big star. He's going to go where the big stars go, right? So that's always a possibility with WWE. You can always see the return of people like Edge. You never fucking know, right? Like Paige has been teasing it with like, oh, this gives me hope. We all know Paige is going to come back at some point, and she's going to pretend she's the hottest thing like in wrestling, but she fucking sucks. So there you go. And reason 25, easily the most important reason of all and of all time. Reason 25. Vince McMahon, motherfuckers, still runs the show, ya cucks. All right? Vince McMahon, I hope Vince never dies. I mean, I honestly would not be surprised if Vince is still around in 20 years running WWE. I'm not even joking. Vince McMahon is like in his early to mid 70s, but Vince McMahon is a thoroughbred, motherfuckers. That guy is not going in the grave anytime soon, thank God. So maybe when he is ready to retire, he's like 93, and then he just passes it over from Triple H or Shane or whoever and gives it to someone else, because Triple H will be like in his 70s at that point, right? I could totally see this happening, motherfuckers. Vince McMahon is not going anywhere, and I love that. You know, Vince McMahon is the guy. Like, I really believe that the Royal Rumble and this segment has now been influenced by Vince McMahon, because we are finally seeing worthwhile wrestlers getting pushes, right? Triple H tried it. You know, he tried it on NXT. No one gave a fuck, right? Then his influence of the NXT superstars had transferred itself, and people are like, oh, Vince is in charge. But no, Triple H's influence can clearly be seen on Monday Night Raw with the likes of Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe, and Finn Balor, right? Like, you can see like these jobbers that nobody gives a fuck about, these rating killers, right, coming in. But now, finally, we have people like Drew McIntyre. Brock Lesnar has been around a lot more. You know, we have Edge back. Orton is now like back in the limelight. You know, the real stars, the people that brought them to where they are in this new era. You understand what I'm saying? So the fact that Vince McMahon still runs the show is dispositive evidence that WWE is and will continue to be superior to AEW and any other wrestling-based entity, right? Until Vince McMahon unfortunately passes away. And the problem with this is this, that the neckbeard fans, they're under the impression, because they're completely wrong about everything, they're under the impression that when Vince dies, things are going to be better because Triple H will have control. No, motherfucks. When Vince dies, if Triple H doesn't wise up, right, WWE will just be like the same thing as AEW. In other words, it will be barely watchable and no one will give a fuck. It'll just be like Finn Balor versus Tony Nese for the WWE title at WrestleMania or some bullshit like that. You understand what I'm saying? Nobody wants to see that, motherfuckers. The other markets, think about how small the neckbeard demographic is. First of all, it is, I think, unique only to like Anglophone countries, right? I'm not even sure about that, but definitely in America, there's a lot of neckbeards. In Canada, I can only assume there's also neckbeards, right? Maybe in England and Australia there's neckbeards, but there aren't that many neckbeards in Europe beyond like the UK. You know what I'm saying? There aren't that many neckbeards in like China or India, right? I mean, they are different people completely. They don't have these weirdos. They're like, oh, I like this small guy. No, India, like, which is a big wrestling market. India likes things like the Great Khali, John Cena, Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns. Saudi Arabia, just think about that. The Saudi Arabia match, right, between Cain Velasquez and Brock Lesnar. They were like, who the fuck is Cain Velasquez? And then Brock Lesnar came out, and I'll never forget it. It was this little kid in one of those chic type outfits. He just goes crazy. He's like, Brock Lesnar, man. How can you not go crazy, right? This is like, they don't give a shit about Mansoor either, you know? Mansoor is crammed down their throats, and they're like, oh, he's a hometown hero. But believe you me, motherfuckers, if it was Mansoor versus John Cena, they would cheer for Cena, right? They understand what's going on. That's why they get all the good matches. That's why they get things like Goldberg and Undertaker. That wasn't a good match, but it was a good idea at least, right? It was a good, you know, on paper it seemed fun. They get things like Cena versus Triple H, Randy Orton versus Triple H, Shawn Michaels' return, right? It's not just the money. It's because WWE knows that they will appreciate someone like Shawn Michaels way more than the spoiled and coddled neckbeard audiences who will say something like, well, why is Shawn Michaels getting some spotlight? I really wanted to see Kurt Hawkins and Dolph Ziggler tear the house down. That's the kind of bullshit you have to deal with, right? And Vince McMahon is the last vanguard, the last bulwark, if you will, of this attitude, right? Triple H just, in my opinion, just wants to be a contrarian, you know? He's like, oh, Vince does it his way. I'll do it my way. Well, I got news for you, pal. Your way is the wrong way. And it disappoints me almost on a personal level how Triple H can be the way he is. And here's why. Because Triple H is a guy that got over on his like charisma, his appearance, right? His muscular structure, right? And his matches, which were slow and drawn out and drama filled, right? He didn't get over by doing like a 630 off the top rope and having like fake Michael Cole tell us that, oh, the moves Ricochet does can only be done in a video game. Yeah, if that's what I wanted to do, I'd be playing a video game. I want to see some grounded shit. I want to see some things that are realistic, man. You know, like I want to see if someone's pinning someone, like the guy that's breaking up the pin just comes and kicks him or pushes him. I don't want to see the guy do a standing shooting star press to break a pin. That doesn't make any sense, man. You know, and Triple H needs to get his head out of his ass. And I hope that Vince McMahon passes the company on to someone like maybe Stephanie or Shane or whoever the fuck there has the same vision as Vince. Not Triple H, motherfuckers. He doesn't deserve it. You understand what I'm saying? He doesn't deserve it. He's done good with NXT in terms of from a business perspective. Like he's grown the brand and he's made NXT UK, if that's even him. In kayfabe it's him, but who the fuck knows, right? That's where he should just be in NXT for the rest of his life. You know? Just let Vince and the big boys, you know, the real men. Patrice O'Neal once said, he said that he's met 3 men in his life, right? He didn't talk about the other 2, but that he was a big dude, Patrice O'Neal, that emasculated him, that he's in their presence, he felt emasculated, right? And one of the men was Vince McMahon. And Patrice O'Neal, when he was a writer for WWE, right, he would meet people like Undertaker, Stone Cold, Triple H, right, Farouk, like all these people that were like, that are big, intimidating guys, right? But he wasn't intimidated by them. But Vince McMahon, he said, he's like, I felt like, basically he felt cucked by Vince McMahon. And how could you not? Look at Vince McMahon, you know what I'm saying? That man demands respect and authority. And if you don't like Vince McMahon, I got 2 words for you, motherfuckers. And you know what those 2 words are? They are, fuck you! He's like, go fuck yourself! Anyways, motherfuckers, stay dirty and keep watching the hater. Keep smashing that like. Keep hitting that subscribe button, you know what I mean? And leave a comment. So maybe the hater will engage with you in the comment section. Cuts. All right, motherfuckers. See you later, bitches.